I'm really happy to see some familiar faces in this room right now. Kind of surprised you guys still want to hear me go on and on about this mom and pup. So an extra thank you for coming out. So tonight I really wanted to give you a good picture of what goes into managing a high profile scenario like this pupping event and what kind of impact it can have. I know most of you here probably are pretty well informed about monk seals, so I won't go too in depth, but for those of you who might not be super familiar, I'll give you a little bit of a background. They are native to Hawaii and not found anywhere else in the world. They're also one of the most critically endangered marine mammals, and they can only be found in the main Hawaiian, as well as the Northwest Hawaiian Islands. The species has been in decline for a long time, but encouragingly, that decline has recently slowed down. And there are now about 1,400 individuals left, with the 300 of them residing in the main Hawaiian Islands and about 1,100 residing in the Northwest Hawaiian Islands. Unfortunately, Hawaiian monk seals face a long list of threats to their survival. In the main Hawaiian Islands, these threats can include interactions with fisheries where monk seals may get hooked or get caught in nets, both of which can be life-threatening. Monk seals can become entangled in marine debris, which can also be fatal. They also face threats of disease, including several that can be spread from pets, such as cats and dogs. Finally, human disturbance from our highly populated island chain can limit the amount of rest that they get, potentially damaging an important energy budget that's needed for foraging, defense from predators, mating, and taking care of their young. All of these things which are clearly critical for their survival. A high incidence of human presence around seals can also cause the seals to become habituated to humans, putting both the seals and humans in precarious situations. Part of our jobs at NOAA is to implement and develop strategies and tools to help prevent and mitigate each and every one of these individual threats. So a couple of you may have heard about this already, but this summer, a lovely seal known as Rocky, or RH58, gifted us with an amazing opportunity to address so many of these challenges and new ones when she gave birth to a pup on June 29th on one of the busiest places on Oahu in Waikiki, just before a national holiday. So the pup, now known to the world as Kaimana, is Rocky's 10th pup. She's also Rocky's first pup born on Oahu. Pupping in the main Hawaiian Islands usually occurs in relatively remote locations. While these locations are not free from humans, they typically don't get a ton of visitors, and the ones that they do get are a really great outreach opportunity. The Kaimana pupping event, however, brought upon many new and unique challenges for our team, as well as an unprecedented outreach platform. When a mother monk seal gives birth to a pup, she will nurse that pup generally for about the next 5 to 7 weeks. The pup relies exclusively on mom for nutrients during this time, and the mom and pup will stay really close to that area. Mom will not go out to feed, but will rely only on her own fat reserves to sustain her while the pup grows nice and fat from her milk. Once mom has depleted those fat reserves after that 5 to 7 week period, she will no longer be able to sustain herself on her own reserves and ultimately need to leave her pup to go out and eat. This is a process you've probably all become familiar with now, known as weaning. And unlike us humans, she and the pup will not really associate with each other on purpose after that period. Both this nursing and weaning period are really critical for the survival of this pup. Monk seals are at a really vulnerable state when they are pups because at this time they're really exploring their environment. Again, they're really relying exclusively on mom until they wean. So they're really learning about how to utilize their environment and surviving based just on mom. Additionally, during this time, another challenge that we were concerned about was that the mom is going to become pretty protective over her pup and could become aggressive to individuals who come close, and potentially when she perceives them posing a threat to their pup. And Kaimana being born on such a heavily used beach created risks for both pup, mom, and the public. This beach is used daily by tourists and locals alike. So when we received that call, we had a lot of concerns that we needed to address, and we are really fortunate for the many organizations and individuals that helped us manage this situation. I'm just going to name a few. Over the period of this talk, there were so many people and teams that we worked with. But our long-term partners, Hawaii Marine Animal Response, is a dedicated group of trained volunteers who help to manage potential interactions by providing outreach around moms and pups. HMAR devoted endless hours to monitoring Rocky and Kaimana daily from sunrise to sunset. Multiple members of the public who got excited about this mom and pup also monitored these individuals on their own time daily and tried to reach out to the public. They would provide useful information to beachgoers about mom and pup and responsible wildlife viewing. They also spent a lot of time trying to prevent dangerous interactions from occurring by sharing risks of swimming near mom and pup. I'm not sure if any of you had been out on the beach on those days or saw any of the media surrounding it, but I know that a lot of the team was pretty stressed out a good amount of the time, watching people get close to the animals without even realizing it when they were in the water. You know, we had live video feeds, and everyone at NOAA would have the screen up in their office watching while working, and I cannot tell you how many times we each called each other and, oh God, did you see what just happened? So it was a pretty intense situation for the people that were on the beach trying to provide the outreach. Ocean Safety and DLNR helped us spread awareness about the risks when entering the water around mom and pup. The media provided an amazing outlet to provide this information as well, and to really bring attention to monk seals in general, especially Honolulu Civil Beat. They played an incredible role in keeping people all over Oahu and Hawaii and the world informed about monk seals through weekly pup dates, where some of our team members even had the unique opportunity to answer live questions and, most importantly, address the risks that we were facing in very real time, allowing us to better manage this situation. They also broadcasted live streams of Mom and Pup Daily, which was really helpful for us at NOAA to monitor and observe these animals in a way that we've never really been able to do before. And these broadcasts had a huge role in helping to foster a whole new community of monk seal conservationists. So, as I've mentioned, you know, mama monk seals can get protective, like all wild animals, including humans. And while monk seals are usually docile animals, moms can become aggressive toward a perceived threat to their pup, such as other seals and sharks. And when you've got a swimmer in the water and they're doing laps, which is what frequently happens out at Kaimanas, they can very much look like a predator in the water or another seal coming to try and check out the mom and pup, which could be a big threat for mom. And so, you know, we really were trying to mitigate what risk there might have been. The DLNR was advising people to use different beaches to try and keep themselves safe. Buoys were put out to try and alert the public where mom and pup might be, but those buoys are static and mom and pup definitely aren't. We had, again, all of the volunteers and members of the public and Ocean Safety trying to notify people in the water and around the beach, multiple media outlets. Outrigger Canoe Club and the Elks Club were notifying their members of the concerns, and we, you know, had new signs developed and posted all over the beach and at beach access points in the areas. We worked with organizers of a stand-up paddleboard race to make sure that everyone was alerted of the risks in the area. Now, because of social media, the public had access to a lot of this information that we were putting out, as well as a lot of videos that were either recorded by Civil Beat or members of the public. I'm not sure if they're going to be viewable, but the video on the left, which if you try and click on it. Yeah, I'm having some technical difficulties. That's all right. You can skip. Yeah. No. Okay, so this video really happened pretty early on in the pupping event. Mom ended up going after this innocuous beach ball. But it really demonstrated that, you know, mom is pretty alert and aware of the things around her, and could certainly go after anything at any given time. And the next video shows what might happen to a person. Oh no, sorry. You can cancel it out.
We're gonna skip it.
Yeah, we're gonna skip that one.
There we go.
Okay, there it is. So mom and pop casually playing in the surf, having a nice time. Mom might turn around and see a swimmer paddling by, and that person's head is raised just so that the head might look like another individual seal. We see in the Northwest Hawaiian Islands, males approach moms and pups. There might be mobbing of the female. In that process, the pup could be injured or even killed. And so a mom's going to be highly alert and looking out for other seals, as they could be perceived as a pretty strong threat to their pup.
Oops. Yes. Okay, keep going.
So here comes that other monk seal. Now, that happened in that movement. I'm not sure if you can tell that distance was, you know, maybe 10 to 20 feet, and she got there pretty darn quick. She moves like a rocket in the water. You can go. So imagine if that was a swimmer passing by. That could have been a very, very serious situation for a human. And as we have learned in the past, there has been multiple attacks on swimmers who were perceived as a threat by a mother monk seal. We have no record of any other seals actively being aggressive to humans except for protective mama monk seals. So, you know, we're concerned about risks to people. We're also concerned about other types of risks for Kaimana. She started becoming incredibly curious as she's getting bigger and older and exploring in her environment more. She started mouthing buoys, which could have a risk of entanglement from the line attached to it. We did work with the Elks Club to make sure that none of those buoys had any hanging lines or loops. And so they were really helpful to put divers in the water and ensure all of their lines were safe. But she also started playing with slippers and trash and things like that, which is really common for a curious monk seal to start doing. But then, of course, as you may have heard, she found her way into the natatorium. She found her way in there, I believe, 3 different times. The first time I was with my family at the dog park, and it was almost sunset, and to get a call that Kaimana went missing, it's on live TV. We're all, you know, incredibly concerned, and the sun's going down. Generally, when we are responding to a situation, that's a situation we're likely not going to be able to do much about because it's nighttime. But thankfully, we got down there and we got assistance from city and county to get into the natatorium. We had lights, we found Kaimana, and we were able to safely retrieve her and rush her back over to the beach to be reunited with mom. This scenario clearly did not scare her enough, and she continued to find her way into the natatorium. This was a really concerning thing, being that this facility is in significant disrepair. There's a lot of different, entrapment risks, pointy, sharp objects and things like that in that area. The access points, there's several small ones and big ones. It's really difficult to determine exactly where she was coming in and out of. As she started getting bigger and fatter, we were definitely concerned that she wasn't going to be really aware of her own body size, and a hole that she got into earlier might not be a hole that she could get out of later. So we're really concerned about the potential for drowning for her in that area. Over 6 weeks, there were several near misses where Rocky came into close proximity of swimmers. If you want to try and click on that one, yeah. In particular, I think was probably the closest call that we have on video. This is not even the worst one I thought that it was. That one's pretty minor. We've got another video that I thought I included here of a woman, and we believe her son, swimming, and Rocky, within seconds, covers probably 30 to 40 feet and reaches the son's feet, who is actively trying to swim away from her. And lunges at the little boy, and mom sees what's going on and starts screaming and splashing the water to try and instill fear in this big, strong mama monk seal, which is actually probably the best thing to do in that scenario, is to stand up and show yourself as a human and not another perceived threat. But that was really, really scary, and I keep showing you these videos because, again, the public had access to these videos, and people just kept swimming. And we're really lucky that Rocky is so accustomed to this area, and she did not actually bite anybody. The bites that have happened in the past have been really significant and life-threatening, and so we were really, really scared it was going to happen, and we're just super grateful that it didn't. But that's definitely one of the factors of a risk assessment that I'm going to talk about in a little while. So this picture is really, really good to show you sort of the transformation that went throughout that time period. As I said, when she would get into the natatorium, she was, she was a big fat seal the first time, but over the next couple of weeks, she just got bigger and bigger. And so as this was happening, and the length of time, we realized that, she was likely going to wean any day now. Generally, the pups that Rocky has had in the past, she has weaned between 39 and 42 days. That's 9 of the 10. Again, Rocky kept doing new things for us, and so she did go over that a little bit, but we knew that we were going to have some really, really serious management decisions to make once pup was weaned. Once she becomes a weaned pup, she's going to be really interested in seeking out interactions, whether it be, again, from those buoys or from people in the water, and that's what's mostly out there, right? So lots and lots of people. And we knew that leaving her in this location was going to present risk for her really getting, one, again, used to being with those people, but also really interested in people. And we've had scenarios in the past where a weaned pup becomes really interested in humans, and they start seeking out that human relationship. And when we've got a scenario in Waikiki where there's lots of people who keep getting in the water, even though there's risk to their life and limb, now you're going to have a really super cute monk seal that is probably not going to be a serious risk to an adult anyway. That, 200-pound beast might roll on top of a kid and it might be pretty scary. But it's going to be a cute seal with thousands of people pretty interested in that seal. And so we knew that, one, the seal was going to be interested in them, and they were going to be interested in her. And that was going to be a pretty dangerous situation for her survival, as well as once she gets older and up to 400, 500 pounds, her being interested in humans would not be really safe for the humans either. So as a female monk seal, we also know that her reproductive potential is critical for the well-being of such a vulnerable and endangered species. The risks for her were also the risks for this population. So we conducted an incredibly thorough risk assessment to determine what the best scenario for this important seal would be. We knew that the risks were not necessarily going to change. The people were still going to get in the water. She was likely still going to try and get into that natatorium. And we determined that the best thing for this animal would be to try and move her to a location that would be safer for her and for people. So there are many factors that I just talked about that we looked into to determine if it was going to be safe for her in this location. We did reach out with city and county to try and find out if there was any way for them to do anything to fix the deteriorating environment. But unfortunately, that's just not something that was possible in a short enough period of time for it to become safe for this animal. Closing down the beach is also not a feasible scenario as well. And so for all of these reasons, we determined that we needed to assess different locations on Oahu to try and see where would be safer. And so for each of the sites that we assessed, we looked into what the threats would be in that area as well. And so we did another risk assessment for each of these beaches. Did they have significant impacts from fisheries interactions? Were there going to be lots of people there? Were there other seals for this animal to learn and grow from instead of humans, like at Kaimana's? And so we determined that we could find a more remote location that was going to be more natural for this animal, had less human interaction, more seal interactions, not just adults, but also, potentially other pups or juveniles. And then we partnered with DLNR to make sure that we were canvassing the area, communicating with local fishermen in the community to make sure that we were trying to mitigate any potential risks that might come up, as well as DLNR did conduct surveys in the ocean to look for any derelict netting. It was also really critical for us to get community engagement in this scenario. We definitely want to make sure that the community is going to accept the seal that we bring into their area. And so we worked with the landowners, the cultural practitioners, the community that lived in the area to explain what was happening and make sure that we had acceptance from them as well. Community acceptance and stewardship is really critical for the survival of these animals. So once we had our location set, we did have an option A and an option B, depending on the logistics of that day. We needed to make sure that we had two different plans in case weather or other scenarios stumped us. And so we got everything ready. We had our team on standby for the moment that Mom left, and amazingly, that is actually recorded on the Civil Beat Live Beat, which was super cool. And we decided to give it a few hours up until the next day to make sure that Mom wasn't going to come back. Typically, moms don't come back, but we do have a few scenarios where Mom has come back within a few hours or by the end of the day, and then the next day she's gone and she never comes back. And so we wanted to at least give her till the next morning, and so we did that, and we got the report that she was there at, I think, 6 in the morning. We had already mobilized, and we got to the beach and she was gone. And so a bunch of us, there's probably 20 of us that were kind of scouring the different areas looking for her. And we found her at the Outrigger Canoe Club, which was going to be definitely a little bit more of a difficult area to capture her and bring her out for transport. And thankfully, she went back in the water and swam over to Kaimana Beach, and we were able to capture her there. Again, this was another live media event. We are not used to, as scientists, having this many people watch what we are doing. But we are incredibly prepared for these scenarios, and we were able to assign everyone's role and make sure that we had monitors of safety for both humans and seals. We had people doing outreach with the crowd. And once we captured her, we were able to quickly put her into our truck and drive her out to one of our locations. So I think I skipped over this slide, but that's all right. I talked about everything there. So once we got her to the new location, we released her. And, you know, before we released her, I'm sorry, we put tags on her, both on her hind flippers as well as a satellite tag on her back. We were able to take some blood samples. We gave her a vaccination for morbillivirus, and again took some samples so that we can monitor her in the future. Once she came out of her sedation, she gullumped down to the water and swam off, and we all breathed a huge sigh of relief that this transport had gone well. We were able to monitor her throughout. Well, we're continuously monitoring her, but we've had the HMAR volunteers out on the site watching her every day and reporting back to us. We've done several site visits as well. We had a cultural practitioner there who did a ceremony once she was released, and we continue to talk with the landowners and do outreach with them as well. One of the concerns that has been brought up quite a bit in that period of time was, you know, was she going to be okay in this area? Would she be missing her mom? Was she going to be safe? And the fact that we've gotten to see her on several occasions interact with other young seals, it brings a lot of joy to our hearts, and hopefully all of those people who were concerned. This is not a scenario that she would have been experiencing out at Kaimana Beach. So overall, our team and monk seals in general have gained so much from this unique pupping event. We were really able to be successful to bring Kaimana to a more natural environment that will maximize her health and survival in the wild. This event, I think, maybe most importantly, brought thousands and thousands of people from all over the world together to now have a love and knowledge of monk seals. And in Hawaii, we have had multiple groups pop up on their own to find ways to be more supportive of monk seals and to look for ways for monk seal conservation. Truly, this is our goal in Hawaii. We at NOAA can do a lot to try and you know, do a lot of research with these animals to find out the best ways to help recover the population. But without a community of support that are also part of these conservation efforts, we are not going to be successful. And I think that we're all pretty stunned that, I don't know, we've declared this the year of the monk seal, that we actually, with Kaimana in this event, we've definitely had the year of the monk seal and have gained a whole lot more support than we could have ever imagined just by one pupping event. So we want to thank all of those organizations, all of the people that were involved, all of you for being interested and supportive of monk seals. And if you have any questions, before you do that, I want to play some videos. Just Anthony from Civil Beat just sent over a bunch of videos for me to play for you guys tonight. So as you're asking questions, I can kind of have them playing. So he's calling this the Kaimana highlight reel, so. I know this is only a few, too. We only put a few together. We probably turn the sound. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. And your questions.
Can you let us know again? Sure, I will. I'll be right there.
The third slide back, where they were just picking up the move. It wasn't up quite long enough. Could you go back to that so we could read it?
Oh, sure. Yeah, sorry. Here, let me pause this then. This one?
Yes.
Okay. How do I make it so it's just the slide?
You have to stand here for the online audience.
Okay, so so the relocation, we arrived, like I said, at about 6 in the morning. She wasn't there. We waited for her to come back to the beach. Once she came out, we got our team together. They have basically it's a stretcher net, so it's the kind of thin rope mesh attached to 2 poles, and they essentially kind of sneak up on her, typically from behind, so that we're not trying to scare her or disturb her prior to putting her in the net. They have both poles kind of spread out, and they kind of lean over her and put either pole on either side. And depending on which position she's in, she'll either roll or she'll already be in place, and they can lift her up essentially like she's on a stretcher. And then you close up the 2 bars and you wrap either side with the rope so that they're tight and she can't get free. They quickly move her from that position to a cage that we have, and she essentially kind of has to glump her way into the cage, and then we close either side of the cage so that she is secure. Then we have the team of people who lift up the cage together and put her in the back of the truck.
So where is she going?
We decided when we moved her that we didn't want to share that publicly, the location where she is. I think that as time has gone by, she has moved from the area that we have translocated her to. She's gone initially when we put her on the beach for that first several weeks. She would only go maybe a mile from the location that we dropped her. Because we have the satellite tag on her and also the volunteers are monitoring her, we know that she's been moving pretty far offshore and has even been seen at a beach 4 miles down the way. And so we're less concerned about sharing the location just because we know that she's moving much more and a lot less vulnerable. But we probably, still want to keep it a little bit under wraps so that we don't have hordes of folks going out to the location to find her. Mm-hmm.
How old is Rocky, and where did she raise her other pups?
Rocky's, the question was, how old is Rocky and where did she raise her other pups? Rocky's 17 years old. All 9 of her other pups have been on the same beach on Kauai, in a nice remote location on Kauai. Interesting fact, the location that Rocky was born in was also seen as a potentially risky area, and so she was translocated. And she was translocated to the beach that she actually has her pups at every year. So one of the other concerns about Kaimana being on this beach and remaining there was if she were to come back and pup in 4 to 5 years, she would come back to Kaimana Beach. If you move them early enough, we've learned this from our past history with translocating seals. If you move them early enough in that weaning process, they will essentially attach themselves to the new location versus the location they were born in. And so we are predicting that when she becomes reproductive and she pups, she will actually pup at the new location rather than in Kaimana Beach.
On the picture that you have with the net, how much did she weigh in the net, and how much did she weigh when she was born?
So we didn't weigh her when she was born or in the net, but we have, general sense. I think we thought maybe 18 to 25 pounds when she was born, and upwards of 250 to 300 pounds when we moved her, if not a little more than that. I was not one of the ones on the lifting end this time. I was one of the ones on the lifting end at the natatorium, and she was hefty and really round. I think that's part of also the issue is they're kind of hard to get around when they're that fat.
And moving among seals like this, there's at least one instance in the last 2 years, seal died in that kind of treatment. You know how many have died from that? They try to catch one with the nets on rocks. And,
okay, yes. So sorry, I wasn't sure exactly what you're talking about. But the question was, how frequently has this type of capture and movement been resulting in death? And we did have a scenario many years ago in which a seal was, they were attempting to capture it because of some health issue, and it was on a rocky area, and the area that it was in, it was rocky and slippery, and the animal actually hit its head on one of the rocks during the capture. Because of this, and anytime something like this comes up that's maybe somewhat unexpected for us, we completely reassess and reevaluate our protocols. And because of that scenario, we no longer capture on rocky situations. And so it's actually, when we get a call, it happens out at Kaimana Point, where we've got a seal that has some sort of fishery interaction that we need to capture this animal to remove the hook, and it's difficult for us to say that we have to wait until the animal gets into a better, safer position on sandy area versus being on rocks. But we've definitely learned that it's a dangerous scenario for both humans and seals to be capturing a seal on a rock. As far as I know, it's only happened that one time.
the previous video when City Milk Pail was there, did they have to pay for the advertisement?
For what? Say again?
The previous video with the City Milk.
Oh, so, yeah. The question for the video earlier that was on YouTube. Did City Mill have to pay for the advertisement? And I guess how it works with social media is the more hits you get on social media, YouTube will actually be able to charge for advertisement on a video that becomes really popular. But it's not our video; it's actually Civil Beat's video, so we don't have any role in that whatsoever.
How old are they? Or how old would Kaimana be before she maybe moved really far away from the location?
You know, the question was how old will she be when Kaimana starts moving really far away from where we relocated her. It's really seal dependent. We've got a seal that we call Ka'ena, or other folks call Ka'ena, out at Kaimana Point, and I think that seal has never been seen anywhere else besides Kaimana Point. We've also got seals that we've seen born on Oahu and never seen, or maybe only once or twice seen again on Oahu, that go to different islands. So it's really seal dependent, but I mean, I think she's gone 7 miles offshore already. So she's definitely starting to broaden her horizons.
Satellite tag will last, and it falls off or something.
Sure. So the tag itself, if it stays on, if the epoxy works the way that it should, that tag will stay on until she molts, which will be probably about a year since she's weaned. The battery life on the tag is really dependent on how we set it. So it's really set to only collect data a couple times a day. And so that will help that battery life last really long. It'll probably last maybe 6 to 8 months.
I saw a previous presentation where she talked about seals in the French frigate shoals that weren't getting enough food, and that seals around Oahu can find more food. It sounds surprising with fisheries that goes on. Could you talk about a little about what they eat and how it is they have more food here than someplace like French frigate shoals?
I can talk a little bit about it. I'm definitely not a foraging ecologist, so actually there might be some folks in here who know that spiel even better than I do. So feel free to speak up if you do. But essentially, they're eating here eels and crustaceans, taco, things like that, small fish. In the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, there's a lot of large predators. More than they have here, the other fish and things have here. And so it becomes a little bit more difficult for a seal, especially a younger seal who isn't diving as deep as the older seals, to find the type of prey that they need.
The satellite tag, there are all kinds of tags collecting all kinds of data. Does this one collect depth data also?
So this tag, because we wanted, the question was, what type of data does this tag collect? Because we wanted to ensure that we could monitor this animal for as long as possible, our greatest interest was location data. So we're not recording any sort of depth or acceleration or anything like that from her right now.
Thank you.
Oh, looks like there's one more question. Go ahead. So they can have a pup every year. I mean, that's part of what we're looking at when we can say that when a mom leaves, she leaves. She's going out to eat. She's starting her new reproductive cycle. So she's already molted, which generally means they're starting to get ready to kind of move on and look for other opportunities. So we could see her next year at Kaimana.